everybody. Well, if you were with us during the show, so welcome back. If this is your first time coming to us here on live, welcome. Obviously, we have a couple of storms that have been rolling in a bit faster than expected. Rebecca has been absolutely killing it on the morning show, and she's been rolling with the punches as we've seen a lot of these storms rolling in earlier than expected.
Sweet, Tavian. You know, thankfully, we've continued to keep an eye on a lot of these storms. We've had a few severe thunderstorm warnings. We had one tornado warning that was just outside of our viewing area in Overton County, but really that goes to show the potential of what some of these storms have within them, and that was one of the main risks that we had today was going to be all the impacts, gusty winds, isolated tornadoes, heavy rain, and keeping an eye out for the opportunity for some large hail. Yeah. So it's been an interesting morning so far, Tavian, and we can see all of your comments here over on our Facebook Live, so hopefully you're joining us. If you have any questions, I know specifically a lot of people when we do these Facebook Lives, they ask about certain locations. Yeah. We're going to try and get those answers as much as we can. We may just send you a little bit of a message with some of those comments, but what we want to get to right now is kind of what's currently happening at the moment, and then also what we're expecting throughout the rest of the day, because really we're just getting started.
Honestly, and if you guys saw a web article earlier, we've mentioned a lot that timing is something that has continued to change. I mean, even the storms that we're seeing right now are in a bit earlier than expected. Even during the shows, we were talking about some of this really picking up around 11 o'clock, kind of just in that late morning lunchtime hour, and here we are. People are just getting to work, and we now see these storms working their way into the plateau. So we might as well just dive in, because that's really where we're watching a lot of our activity. We can kind of zoom into what we're seeing here in the plateau in particular, kind of coming out of Middle Tennessee, and we're looking at 2 severe thunderstorm warnings at this point. There were about 2 more that were in the Cumberland, or excuse me, the Kentucky area, but those have since gone away. We're now primarily looking into kind of a transition from Fentress now into parts of Morgan and into Scott County. In particular, you can see here this severe thunderstorm warning, this newer one that you see on your right, including Morgan and Scott County, that's going until 10:15 Eastern time, so 9:15 for them, because I think they may still be on Central, but similar for Fentress County. I can turn off some of these watches and warnings, and you can see this huge cluster that we have got right now leaving out of southern Fentress County, now approaching the Sunbright area, approaching Robbins. You guys may already be seeing some of that moderate to even heavy rainfall. So these storms are moving very quickly at 40 miles per hour. So even in these just 20 minutes or so, this larger cluster has almost completely passed over the Jamestown area and is now moving its way further on. We've got 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. We've got quarter-sized hail already, which hail I think is something that is going to turn into a bit of a larger event than we may have originally been expecting. So that's going to continue to move its way on through, and otherwise we look a bit further out towards the La Follette area, towards Speedwell. There are no warnings on this system in particular, but there was a special weather statement that did just go into effect, particularly for winds upwards of 50 miles per hour. So even if you're not seeing a severe thunderstorm, there is still the opportunity for seeing some of those stronger storms all throughout the area. Now, we talked about the opportunity of a tornado warning that we were seeing in Overton County just before. I'm going to come back into this corner and switch over to our velocity map just to see if we can catch any more of that rotation still. Velocity, of course, being the wind speeds that we see. And I'm going to switch over to what's called storm relative velocity. That just kind of helps you focus in on what we're watching with that system in particular. And this right here, no, I'm going to get my little arrow if it'll work with me.
Scoot to the side there we go.
You
got to love it when Tavian's using my graphics.
Listen, we are just freestyling it.
Scoot that. There you go. Perfect.
There we go. A little bit of a line. There we go. So looking at this guy right here, this kind of bundle of flotation, this green of red that's been circling each other. If I loop this, you can kind of watch how that really traveled its way on over as we looked from parts of Overton County and moving its way down through Fentress County. So it started a bit tighter when it was in Overton County. That's why the Nashville National Weather Service actually put that tornado warning into effect. As it traveled across Fentress County and now making its way towards parts of Morgan County, it's continued to broaden, it's continued to weaken, so that tornado threat is looking less likely. So they allowed that to expire, and the National Weather Service at Morristown has not put that back into effect.
We did just get a new warning on that system that you were just talking about.
Well, look at
the one
that.
where we had the special weather statement.
Let's see. Yep, that is sitting right about over here. We can move that in. Looks like a little bit of Union County, a little bit of Claiborne County. Let's see if we can get a focus on that. So Claiborne, Granger, and Union County. Looks like with that, we're likely going to be seeing some winds, also likely upwards of about 60 miles per hour. Yes, 60 miles per hour, and again, with that quarter-sized hail. So this system is going to continue moving its way on over towards the southeast. So with that movement, that's then going to be moving towards areas like Washburn, moving towards areas even in towards parts of Jefferson County is going to be the part that is going to be heading towards next. Let's see if there are any questions that we are
Yeah, that's what I
missing
think a
right
lot of
now.
people are just asking about specific locations. But if you are just listening with us, again, we just had a new warning that was issued for Claiborne, Granger, and Union counties. This just came into effect as we were doing this Facebook Live. Tavian was mentioning it moments ago. And then now, again, a lot of these warnings that are in effect are again, not only because of those gusty winds, but also because of the opportunity for quarter-size hail. I would really kind of reinstate that a lot of these storms are what you would expect in the summertime, you know, where you get those big, beautiful, summer-like supercells that continue to move through. And so we're just seeing some of these stronger storms more isolated in nature. But yeah, lots of lightning with a lot of these storms as well, Tavian.
So much, especially with this bundle here that we are seeing heading into Morgan and Scott County. And of course, we always tell you, when thunder roars, head indoors. More of that lightning is going to be more power with this storm as it's moving through, which is why we're seeing such powerful winds. I wouldn't be surprised if they go past that 60-mile-per-hour mark. I believe 70 miles per hour is what was stated explicitly by the National Weather Service.
Yeah, well, we'll get to the impacts in just a moment from the National Weather Service. But again, Tavian, that's a quick glimpse, and we're going to talk about this all over again. I do want to talk quickly about what we're seeing from the Storm Prediction Center. And so you and I, when we both saw this graphic, we both kind of went, okay, here we go. So as you notice, we've had some changes even from this morning. Across the area, we do have that level 3 enhanced risk that is going to be all across East Tennessee. That's for those areas shaded in orange. And then just off to our west, across parts of Middle Tennessee, they now have a level 4 risk that is in place. And you have to think these risk levels only go to a category 5. So we're looking at a moderate risk across parts of Middle Tennessee, which is where we already had that tornado warning in effect already this morning. And the big picture, again, you're really getting a glimpse of this severe weather stretch that is going to be all across the southeast. This is actually the same line that brought in all of that significant strong weather that we had across the Oklahoma area. If you're familiar with some of those storms that we talked about just a few days ago, not saying that it's going to be the same scenario, but it really goes to show some of the potency that some of these storms do have in place. So again, as you're looking here, that's the big picture as to what we're seeing again from the Storm Prediction Center. I do want to talk a little bit more about our local viewpoint and just quickly go over a Futurecast model, and then I'm going to have Tavian go over one more time what we're seeing on the radar, and we'll try and get to some of your questions and the impacts. We got a lot to talk about, folks. So let's talk about more of our local Futurecast model. So originally we were using, Tavian, this morning what we call the graph. So some of our models, we have different models. We have the high resolution, which is updated more often. We have the graph, which is another great model. Now these models are kind of on both different spectrums. One is showing not necessarily enough, and one is kind of showing too much. And
they've switched back and forth as well.
They have been switching. So right now, this is our high resolution model. So this model in particular, you notice it's a little bit overdoing some of the coverage that we have in place, but it really picks up on the fact that we will see some of these stronger storms last into the afternoon hours. This model kind of gearing up to what the graph was saying. So now they're kind of becoming into a little bit more of an agreement. This model also showing what our other model was showing, and that is a break from what we're seeing this morning and into the afternoon. And then it's like, here you go, Todd and Cassie and Mike, we've got more storms for you to cover tonight. And so
it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because while we have this first round of storms that is going to come through, that uses up a lot of the energy that we have available in our atmosphere. But if we get that break, especially if we see some of that sunshine start to poke through, that daytime heating, although it may kind of seem nice, that is actually a possibility, an opening to rebuild some of that instability, which can then intensify the storms that we see during the evening time. So as awkward and maybe as a little odd as it may seem, we almost don't want the break, because that just means the storms will continue to weaken, and we can be done with this even sooner.
And now we're actually, most of our models agreeing that we will see that break. And this is when a lot of our, what we call SKU-T models, showing most of that instability that we have in place, just really ramping up right around this time frame. Even if we have thin cloud cover, we're not talking we need clear blue skies, although that would make it 10 times worse. Even if we do have some of that thin cloud cover, we are going to continue to watch the opportunity for more strong storms arriving tonight. This is just interesting in the way it's looking. It looks like we could see that. Yeah. Ouch. Ouch. Okay, so we're seeing this as it's updating just along with you as well, folks. I kind of want to take this back a little bit.
That's some intensification.
This model, I'm going to be honest with you, folks.
It gets a little
excited. It gets a little excited. That it just kind of puts a little bit of a pit in your stomach if this does come true. But you notice, I mean, Tavian, we talk about this all the time, the Boeing, if that were to happen, I mean, I couldn't imagine that a lot of people would have power going into the evening hours
Yeah.
tonight. That's why, I mean, get your phones and your devices charged. You have some time. I mean, we're talking about a system that's like 12 hours away from now. But if this does come true, I mean, we certainly have a lot of energy that is going to be in place going into those storms tonight. And so this is going to take us again into the evening hours, and then that's going to take us overnight. I really do think that right now what we're looking at into your Thursday morning, that's kind of overdoing it.
Yeah.
I don't foresee to have that much precipitation tomorrow morning. I really do expect as that cold front is moving in tomorrow, we may see a few more showers and thunderstorms in place. But what this is showing for the evening hours tonight, that is definitely going to be interesting.
It's got the placement. We can hope to not see that kind of
Yes,
intensification.
I mean, everybody, let's just do a little rain dance all the way through the afternoon hours. Let's keep these showers going. So I do want to talk a little bit more about the impacts that we are going to see in place. So these are the impacts. This is going to be for today through tomorrow. And I should say tomorrow morning. I need to change that and say tomorrow morning because I don't foresee tomorrow to be a 10 weather impact day all day. It's just going to be primarily tomorrow morning. But a few things have changed even since yesterday. So we're talking about some heavy rain. That's one of the bigger concerns that's come into play.
Especially with that flood watch now coming out almost
Yes.
area-wide. And I believe a flood advisory may have been called in parts of Campbell and Scott County.
Yes, yep. And that's going to be, if you're watching on TV, we have all of these going at the bottom of our screen on actual TV right now. If you're watching us on social media, again, we're going to have these posted all over the place. But flooding is going to be a big concern. Some models showing multiple inches of rain.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing upwards of 4 to 5 inches of rain, especially as you work your way over towards the west.
Yes, and National Weather Service saying the same thing. Gusty winds, wind gusts over 70 miles per hour are going to be possible. You saw that Boeing effect from the model as we go into the evening hours tonight. Widespread power outage is going to be a possibility. That's going to be a big issue as we go throughout the evening hours. And then hail has actually become a bigger story with some of these storms as well. You have to think, we have a lot of lift. We have a lot of instability with these storms. And so how hail is created is we get those tall, big cumulonimbus clouds. And with all this moisture in place, we've got the rain, we've got those clouds. The moisture is going to continue to lift. And the higher it goes, the colder it gets. And then we get those hailstones that form. And with that lift in place, we can get those hailstones that can stay in the upper levels of these clouds much longer and form those larger hailstones. And right now we're talking about egg size, 2-inch in diameter size hail. That could be possible. I don't know about you, but I'm thinking about where I need to park my car as we go into the evening hours tonight. And then we already had that tornado warning that was in Overton County, so right outside of our viewing area, but it does show that some of these storms do have some spin in place. And we have all of this information in an article over on our on our website as well. So if you want to rewatch this, if you have questions for us, again, you can always check it out on there. But maybe let's do one more radar recap. Does that sound good? And then go over some questions.
Absolutely, let's.
Okay. Maybe I'll check this while you do radar.
Gotcha.
Teamwork.
All right, gonna take it all the way back in right now. We've got the 2 currently severe thunderstorm warnings that we're watching through the area. One that has including parts of Scott and Morgan County, and the second with that storm that I was talking about. We watched it go into effect here on the live. This one here including parts of Granger, Clay Point, and I believe a little bit of Jefferson County as well, including parts of Tazewell and Maynardville on either side of that storm. Now with this system, both of them moving over towards the east. This one's got a little bit of a southeast tilt to it as well. Speedwell looks like you're on the back end of that, but you're probably hearing a lot of that thunder and lightning. So of course, you want to make sure you're heading indoors. Sharps Chapel, you guys are going to be up next for that. And Maynardville, if that cluster continues to stretch out, especially people on the northern side of town, you guys are going to be getting some of those storms as well. Tazewell, Washburn, and then right on the edge of that warning, we're going to see Thornhill. Now this is going until 10:30, so it's got another 35 minutes and some change. So we're likely going to be seeing these impacts for quite a while. As we look further over in towards the west, we're going to ski the system now. It's nearly fully out of Fentress County. So those of you in Fentress County, you guys were seeing this heavy rain for a solid half hour. So that is now moving over in towards the east. And now we see this in Scott and Morgan County. So Robbins, you guys are in the thick of things. If there are any towns here in northern Morgan County, Sunbright, where we saw that last tornado, you guys are now in the thick of things. Not looking at as much of that rotation as we were before. That's why we're not looking at that tornado warning, because again, that continued to open up, that continued to broaden. So we're just looking at the impacts of this system itself. The 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, the quarter-sized hail. We're not up to that A size just yet, but that is the largest that we could see of some of that hail. And then also the heavy rainfall coming along with it as well. I almost wanted to take a second to kind of go back into the Storm Prediction Center risk and kind of open that up into the entire area, because this is the general risk that we're seeing right now. But if you weren't aware, the Storm Prediction Center actually breaks up that risk into the different categories. So we have the full categorical risk, which is what you're looking at right now, but we can even break that up into sections. One of those sections, of course, being tornado risk. So that highest risk you're going to see is in that yellow and in those black lines, that hatch pattern. And so that's primarily going to be including our plateau counties. So parts of Fentress County, Scott, a little bit of Campbell County. You see that northwestern edge of even a bit of Anderson County as well, Morgan County, Cumberland County. So the places that we are usually looking when we see some of that most intense material, that's going to be some of that highest percentages, and then we see lower percentages as we look further into the rest of the area. We can switch over into gusty winds, and now you're seeing up to that level 5, that pink now that you're seeing as we look just in parts of Overton County, getting into the rest of Middle Tennessee. And now at this point, all of our area here in East Tennessee is going to be under that level 4, that significant risk for gusty winds. And so that's why we're likely going to see any severe thunderstorm warnings be somewhat widespread. Everyone's going to have an opportunity to see some of those because those gusty winds are going to be passing through the entire area. And then we talked about the hail, something that is a bit of a growing threat from where we originally imagined yesterday and even from what we were thinking earlier this morning. So you're seeing again that hatch pattern, those black lines, and even up to that level 4 risk as we look into Middle Tennessee. So some stronger storms could get some of that larger hail. And the interesting thing about the hail is that the stronger that the storm is, the larger the hail that it can create. But the second that storm starts to weaken, that's when that hail begins to drop. So really we see some of those stronger storms that'll make their way on over into the east, and as they begin to fall apart a little bit, going from the plateau into the valley, that's where we can see some of that hail impact, and that's where we can get some of those larger sizes as well.
And just a reminder, folks, too, we want you to send your photos to us of the hail. We would love to get a chance to see those if you are seeing any of that across the area this morning, especially with some of these cells that are continuing to make their way through. I do want to talk quickly about this severe thunderstorm warning that we have right now moving through parts of Union County. Looking just at the radar on my own personal phone, I'm going to take off these watches and warnings right now. We are looking at some very gusty winds, some very damaging winds that could be possible right now, making its way into right now the central part of Union County. So right now approaching Highway 33. So this is going to be heading into the Washburn area. We're looking at wind gusts again, likely up to around 60 miles per hour. Let's see if we can get a good reading on this. Again, this is just picking up around 38 miles an hour. But again, these winds, again, do have the potential of bringing in some downed trees as well as some power outages. The brighter the green, the stronger those winds are going to be. And then we're also seeing some of those very gusty winds. This is right around the Sunbright community. You have to think the Sunbright community is an area that is still cleaning up from some of the severe weather that we had earlier this year. You notice some of those brighter greens that we have in place. This is where we are watching some of those very gusty winds. And remember when Tavian was showing you not too long ago some of that broad rotation that we had in place from some of these storms? That is very similar to the location of what we're watching right now. So Wartburg, you have some very strong winds moving into your area. If it holds together, Oak Ridge, Caryville, you are going to be continuing to see some of these very strong winds moving into your area as well. And heads up I-75, if this does hold together, North Knox County also going to be looking at some very gusty winds moving into the region. And this is all a part of what is currently, again, a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for Morgan and Scott counties. And it's going to quickly make its way off to the east. It's moving right around 40 to 50 miles an hour. But there's basically 3 different cells. We'll see if they end up issuing another warning for that 3rd cell off to the west. Right now, that is just right outside of our viewing area, but it's going to be pushing into Fentress County here fairly shortly. And again, this really does track up with what we were seeing with the high resolution model. And so the National Weather Service, they did a briefing while we were on this Facebook Live. Okay. Cassie and Todd were relaying the messages to us, but they were also using this high resolution model. And they're basically saying that it's kind of, models are taking these storms for what they are. So you kind of just have to pick a model and you have to go with it. And so right now what we're showing, again, is primarily the high resolution model. So let me recap one more time what our models are showing for the rest of the day. And then I do want to show the impacts graphic one more time as well. I'm not going to lie, the high resolution model I think had a better grasp on what was initiating a little bit earlier. This new run is a little bit on the is a little bit of a different time frame. I like the fact that it shows some very strong storms moving in around lunchtime. And then also, Tavian and I mentioned this multiple times.
This break.
I know, that break. It's perfect for picking up kiddos from school. I will be honest in that time
It'll
sense.
make that midday commute a bit better, but what comes after it is
what
the
comes
worrisome
after
part.
it is going to be a little bit worrisome. And Tavian, you had some great coverage this morning about storms in the overnight hours, because with storms, while it's dark outside, there's also this level of, I wouldn't necessarily say uncertainty, but you also get a little bit more fearful because it is going to be happening in an hour when a lot of people are typically asleep. That's why you have to have your notifications turned on. That's why you have to have your devices charged next to you. And as a reminder, again, if this comes into fruition, now keep in mind this model is a little bit aggressive, more doom and gloom, but if this does come true, folks, we are talking about very, very gusty straight line winds moving into the area, in addition to the opportunity for some very large hail. Looking at the chance for also some isolated tornadoes and heavy rain. I mean, we are looking at almost every risk in place today. It's going to be a busy day across the area. I want to one more time show the impacts graphic, because I had a few people say, oh my gosh, I didn't get a chance to see it. So let me just pull that up for you one more time, and we'll talk quickly about some of the impacts that we are going to, is that the right one? Sometimes I feel like there's different ones on here.
Most updated.
Okay. Perfect. Thanks, Tavian. So impacts for the rest of the day today. This is just kind of talking a little bit more. You want to mention this? I went over it already. But
Absolutely. So I'd say the largest one that we're going to be looking at are the winds and the rain. So winds, they could be getting upwards of 60, maybe even 70 miles per hour. Those straight line winds, especially powerful. And these are some of the winds as well that are going to be coming ahead of some of these storms. So once you feel those powerful winds, you see those skies starting to darken, that's when those storms are going to be heading in your direction. And that's the point that you're really going to want to start to be on alert. So with these powerful winds, be it straight line or even with a bit of rotation, we're looking at power outages, downed trees. Now, rain is going to be another large one as well, because we are seeing multiple rounds of strong storms. You could be seeing heavy rain to the point that we're causing localized flooding. There's a flood watch all around the area. All of East Tennessee has a flood watch in effect, and I believe, again, a newer flood advisory that's going to be in parts of Scott and Campbell counties. Now, tornadoes cannot be ruled out. Unfortunately, we do definitely have the possibility of a few of those spin-ups. Of course, we had the tornado warning that was in Overton County. We are going to continue to look at every single cell in all of these storms for rotation of that kind. And of course, the stronger the rotation, the stronger some of the winds, the more of a possibility we have at seeing some of that hail as well. Again, those more powerful winds, that higher rotation gives the opportunity for these storms to rotate that hail inside of these cells for longer before it finally drops down to the ground. So those are going to be the impacts that we're looking at throughout these systems. And with the likeliness of this break, we're not only going to be looking at the chance for these risks now, because we've already seen pretty much all of them already, but we're also going to be looking at that during the evening/nighttime round of storms, and maybe even during that last bit that we see kind of during those overnight hours heading into Thursday morning.
Here's one more time kind of the big picture approach. The severe thunderstorm warnings that we do have in effect are in our viewing area right now in East Tennessee. So Tavian and I are going to be watching this for you. I had a few people on here say, oh my gosh, my kids are on a field trip today. What are we going to do? And so we are looking at this first round that's moving through. We had one person say that her family's in the Dollywood area, so there still is some time, folks. I mean, you have some time to plan ahead, but hopefully this is something that, again, we are taking seriously for the start of the day. We'll watch this round of rain likely move through within the next few hours, and then it'll make its way out of the area as we go into the afternoon. And then some great news is that we have that brief break. Good and not so good news. I mean, it's like it's a double-edged sword, as you said. And so we are going to continue to watch that. And then as we go throughout the rest of the weekend, I mean, I have some great news, Tavian. At least we're going to continue to see some quieter weather into Mother's Day weekend.
And thank goodness.
Are you going to talk a little bit more about safety at night?
I am. I wanted to, we mentioned some of the graphics that I was showing during the morning time, so I wanted to see if I could pull some of it in there.
We'll see if our computer can get those going.
Stay with us.
Come on, you got it.
We are
Sometimes when
rooting
we
for
get
her.
severe weather, it gets a little, anxious. Let's try again.
We're going to try
What
this
are we
one more
showing
time.
right now? The radar? Well, the radar's probably frozen on you.
The radar may be a
Tavian
bit
had a
frozen.
great point this morning, folks. Again, I know that my kids, maybe your pets, get a little bit more anxious about some of the strong storms that are moving through the area. And so, thankfully, if you live right now in an area that is south of I-40, right along I-40, you still have some time to maybe prepare yourself mentally, maybe talk to your kids, maybe just get a little plan in place and be prepared for some of the stronger storms we could see this afternoon, and then more of those strong storms that will arrive as we go into the overnight hours. Just keep in mind, we're going to have our entire team. Tavian and I will be here until the afternoon hours. Todd and Cassie are going to have you covered tonight. We have meteorologist Mike Simon, who's actually going to be out storm chasing.
I'm a little bit jealous of him.
We are a little bit jealous, and so we're going to have all eyes and ears out watching these storms just to make sure you feel like you have all the information that you need. I'm looking on this Facebook Live. A lot of the people that are asking questions on here are primarily asking about their and we just got a severe thunderstorm watch that has been put into effect across the area.
Is that
We'll get that pulled up in just a second. I don't have it in my shows right now, but that has been issued until 4 p.m. today.
Wow, okay.
Interesting that it's only been till 4 p.m. I wonder if they'll reissue it.
Severe thunderstorm watch. Let's see if we can get
Isn't that
in here.
interesting?
It really is. Severe
It's
thunderstorm.
if you talk about your graphics, I'll pull it up.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay. So that's
addition-
primarily sitting in some of our, and
Flood
most
watch.
of our, looks like most of our Central Valley and then getting into
Yeah.
Upper East Tennessee. Interesting.
Okay, so that's again going to be until 4 p.m. today. That timing is for the flood watch. So we're pulling in the data in here. We're doing this on the fly, folks. We promise
are.
we'll post this into a little bit more of a fashion format coming up in just a little bit. But do you want to quickly talk about maybe kind of what we can expect tonight, and then we have to do a live cut in at 10:25.
We sure do. Well, you know what? This is perfect timing to just really quickly tell the difference between a watch and a warning. Of course, we have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect. That's going to be area-wide. We're seeing these good conditions that could cause severe thunderstorms to appear. And, of course, we're already seeing the material for that, and we have severe thunderstorm warnings that are in effect. Those are going to be a lot more local, a lot more aerial, letting you know that a severe thunderstorm is already in your area or about to move into your area, and that's going to be the time that you want to find that safe space. You want to head inside, maybe get off the roads if you have that opportunity. Now, of course, we have something similar for a flood watch and warning. The entire area has that flood watch in effect. And then if a flood warning goes into effect, it's usually going to be a flash flood warning in particular, because a cluster of cells has simply basically driven over our area, dropped a large amount of rain in a short amount of time, which essentially does not give the ground the opportunity to soak all of that in as the ground and soil usually would. And then, of course, we have a tornado watch in the morning. Now, thankfully, we have not seen a tornado watch go into effect. We have seen the singular tornado warning that was in Overton County. That rotation opened up, so we have not seen anything here in East Tennessee specifically, which is definitely great news for now. But let's talk a little bit about safety, because again, preparedness is the most important part about all of this. You got to know where to go in a tornado. Now, of course, a lot of people may not actually be home right now. I know a lot of people are out at work, and you can apply some of these rules to your workplace as well, whether you're in somewhere that's a little bit smaller or you're in a high-rise building. You don't want to be on any top floors. You want to get as close to the ground as you possibly can, and anything exterior is anything with a window is not going to be somewhere you want to be, because those gusty winds, be them straight line or with rotation, could blow out those windows. Now you and your family or coworkers are getting cut with that glass. So, and especially, of course, being outside is not where you want to be. I know everybody wants to try and get the pictures and the videos, and we love when you send those in, but we also love when you are safe and not injured. So we want that to be your first priority, because, of course, that is our first priority as well. So you can apply that into your office, head into that bottom floor, that lobby floor, getting away from the front of the building if it has a lot of that glass. I know a lot of places have those big glass windows, and of course they're gorgeous when there's a pretty view, not so great when we have powerful winds that could break those windows. Now, as we get into the nighttime, you've picked up the kids from home, or you picked up the kids from school, everybody's in the house now. You can apply pretty much all of these same rules. So when you get into the house, you've got to establish where that safe place is. If you have a basement, that's going to be the best place for you to go. If not, then really any interior room. So that's most likely going to be an interior bathroom, a closet, somewhere that is closed off. You can even cover yourself. A lot of people will cover themselves with a blanket, something to help protect them from any kind of debris. If you have a helmet, like a bike helmet, or even a hard hat for anybody that might work in construction or just happen to have one, that could even be a good idea as well for if there's any kind of falling debris. For people that go outside, that could even be a good idea as well if you start running into hail. I know hail starts falling, people want to run out and grab something, but you might get knocked in the head, and with some golf ball sized hail, or even egg size that we're now seeing is possible, that's definitely giving a pretty nasty injury right there. So you've got to make sure you have your emergency plan ready so that, say, goodness forbid, a tornado warning comes into effect, you're ready to get up and go. That's not really the time that you want to be scrambling around trying to figure out what to do. On your cell phone, want to make sure that all of your devices are charged. Have those chargers with you, have flashlights with you, batteries, maybe even some perishable food, and making sure that your emergency alerts are on so that you can actually get all of those warnings. You can get them directly to your phone in your settings. You can get them from the National Weather Service. You can get them from social media. You can get them from us. Just make sure you get them. That is really the most important part about it. And then when it comes to flooding, turn around, don't drown if you happen to be on the roads. Now, when it comes to flooding inside your home, it can be a bit tricky because the advice for a tornado versus the advice for flooding in the home can be a little bit different. For flooding, we say get to a top floor, but if there's a tornado, you want to be on the bottom floor. So you've got to find a little bit of a middle ground if you can. So say maybe your basement is starting to maybe have a little bit of flood water that's starting to rise up in that. Maybe go up to that first floor, and if you have a half bathroom, somewhere that's interior, again, you don't want to have any windows, you don't want it to be outward facing or exterior, something that can keep you within that. Because if damage begins happening to your house, it's going to break it down from the outside and almost work its way in. So the further within that home you are, the safer that you are going to be. So of course, again, just making sure you get your alerts however you can. I know a lot of people have different weather apps, they have our apps. Just make sure your do not disturb is off. I know I'm guilty of that as well. You have to make sure your phone...
We all know Tavian's guilty of that. Get that do not disturb off.
I'm notorious.
Let's take one more look right now, and then I think we do have to get ready to go do our live cut-in, and we also have to run upstairs, Tavian, and give a little update. So we do have one more severe thunderstorm warning that was just issued, and this is going to be for right here. It's going to be for Anderson County. Yeah, so it's going to be for... you notice that they do have that tag for considerable damage. So we do have Claiborne, Granger, and Union County. So that is going to be for the one that is originally on there. Let's see if we can zoom this out a little bit, because the most recent one that was just issued was going to be for Anderson, Campbell, Scott, and Morgan counties. So, that's going to be this one right here. So they've just reissued, there you go, Anderson, Campbell, Morgan, and Scott. We really had to zoom in on that one. And so this storm, again, you can see that tag from the National Weather Service. We're talking about considerable damage. We're seeing some very gusty winds along this line of some strong storms moving into the area. Again, right now we are watching this severe thunderstorm warning that is going to be pushing through the region, and it's going to be moving off to the east at 45 miles an hour. Right now, we are only getting 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, as well as quarter-size hail with this storm, but we are seeing very heavy rain. We're looking at some very frequent lightning. If you live in the Rocky Top community, if you live in the Clinchmore area, you do have a very strong storm that is going to be traveling in your direction. With this storm, again, we are seeing some very strong straight line winds. So we are going to continue to watch this, also leading to the potential for some damage in this area. So again, if you are in the path of this storm, Clinchmore area, Rock Top, Coalfield, if it holds together, Clinton, and potentially moving into the northern half of Knox County, we are watching a very strong storm, and this is what models were showing. We've got these cluster of storms that are making their way through the area. They're moving off to the east-northeast, right around 40 to 50 miles an hour. So again, just to the north of Coalfield, just to the north of Oak Ridge, moving towards the Clinchmore area, eventually going to be crossing I-75. We do have a storm that is very strong, lots of lightning. It really has not weakened much since it has made its way into the area, and it is entering into an area where we have had quite a bit of sunlight already, and so we've got a lot of energy in place this morning, and we're going to continue to watch that break from the rain this afternoon provide more energy as we go throughout the rest of the day. So Tavian, you and I are going to be here all day. I know that we are going to continue to highlight these storms as we go throughout the rest of the day. We'll be posting these onto social media. We're going to take a look at some of your questions. I know that we have Cassie. I saw her on this Facebook Live. She's answering some of those questions already. Perfect. Full team coverage all day today, folks. Yeah.
A lot going on. We'll be here for it. And I mean, even if you want to get more information, more up-to-date information, we've got that cut-in coming up at 10:30. We're going to be doing it live, so you'll continue to have that up-to-date information, not only online, but even on TV as we continue to do those cut-ins. So we've got that 10:30 cut-in, and then after that, unless we see something particularly crazy, like a severe thunderstorm warning that happens in one of our kind of main counties, Knox County most likely in particular, or if, not looking like it quite so, but we really hope not. If we see a tornado warning, of course, we will be on the air and on social media immediately. So there are going to be multiple opportunities to come out here and ask us questions, to see us, watch what we have going on, and we can answer and clarify anything that you need, because we're going to be here all day and we'll be on air multiple times.
It's going to be great, guys. All right, thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, Tavian and I are going to keep digesting a lot of these storms. Again, the most recent severe thunderstorm warning, there's so many in place. This is going to be for Anderson, Campbell, Morgan, and Scott counties, but we're also watching some very strong storms continuing to slide their way through the area. Busy start to the day, folks, and we're just getting started. Make sure you have your devices charged now, and our full weather team is going to be tracking these storms as we go throughout the rest of the afternoon and then into the overnight hours and into tomorrow morning as well. So
next 24 hours, basically.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, everybody, and